Welcome to the Budget Mom YouTube channel. I'm Kamiko Love from thebudgetmom.com, and today we're in a little bit of a different space. So I am, as probably you are, we're being safe at home, and so we're going to be doing my full March budget recap from the comfort of my own home. So things may look a little bit different for the quality of these videos just because we don't have my YouTube crew here helping me out film the videos, but I want to make sure that I'm providing the most useful and helpful tips on my YouTube channel. So today we're going to be, like I said, we're going to be going over my March recap. So what does closing out your budget really mean? Closing out your budget is all about analyzing and looking at your spending for March or whatever tracking period you're about to close out. So we're going to be looking at where every dollar of my income went, plus my savings progress and much, much more. Okay, so closing out your budget all has to do with your expense trackers. I use the highlighter method, so each one of these colors represents a different category in my budget. I also have two different expense trackers, one for my cash spending and one for my checking account. So closing out your budget, I use three really helpful worksheets. They're called my Where Did My Money Go worksheets. But in order to fill those out, tracking your spending is a must and it's essential, especially right now when a lot of us are being forced to cut back on our spending. Going through line by line of your spending and saying, okay, this is a problem area. I'm spending too much here. I can really cut back. Maybe you're noticing some spending habits that you weren't aware of, like coffee trips or clothing purchases that aren't really necessary. So right now, getting your budget down to a bare bones budget is absolutely essential. And one of the ways that you can make those tweaks and changes in your budgeting life is actually knowing where your dollar goes. It's all about awareness. So tracking your spending, it's something you have to do in order to close out your budget, look at where your dollars went, make sure that your income is matching your expenses. So I use a zero-based budget, which means that every dollar of my income is being planned or spent somewhere over here in my spending trackers. So what happens is income minus expenses should equal zero. So once you have and tracked your spending, I use three different worksheets. These are my monthly Where Did My Money Go worksheets. So the first worksheet that I use is my Where Did My Money Go monthly budget and category breakdown. This worksheet is all about where did your dollars go and placing your spending into budget categories that make sense to you. So it's really important that whatever categories you use in your budget, it's for things that are really happening with your spending and things that make sense in your own mind. When you're looking back at your expenses and your finances, it's important that you know and understand what your categories mean, what you're spending in each one of those categories. So for me, I work with these different categories. I do have a budget limit for my tracking period. So just because it says monthly budget doesn't necessarily mean it's one full month. Your tracking period might be from the first of the month to the last day of the month, or it might be based on when you are getting paid. So maybe it's from the first paycheck of the month to the first paycheck of the following month. So I have and spent $296 in food in March, and that was way under budget for me. I spent $472 in insurance. Now, miscellaneous purchases, what is that? Miscellaneous category is meant for spending where things kind of pop up. It's real life. It's things that I wasn't planning for. So unexpected small expenses. I was $6 over budget in that category just because I moved into a new home and some things popped up. Car and gas maintenance, I was at $158. Nothing spent on fun. Utilities was $742. Now my utilities, what you'll see here in just a minute, has increased significantly. I wouldn't say drastically, but it's definitely a noticeable increase just because I moved into a new home and the space is larger and we're dealing with more utilities. My son was $110. Now I did have a new expense that's going to be popping up very frequently every month. We just adopted and rescued a new puppy named Toby. So we're gonna have a little bit higher pet expenses than what you're used to seeing in my previous budgeting videos. So 5% of my income went towards food. I was able to save 29% of my income. I was able to save $1,631. Now, let's talk about monthly income or your tracking period income. That is your starting balance plus your incoming income will give you your monthly income. Now, what is your starting balance? Your starting balance is what you have in your checking account or your cash envelopes on the very first day of your tracking period. Now, since I track from the first to the last day of the month, my starting balance was what was in my checking account on March 1st or what was left in my cash envelopes on March 1st. That's my starting balance. Incoming income is anything like maybe your paycheck. If you get income from a partner or a spouse. Now me and my boyfriend, we split our expenses in half and he just gives me cash throughout the month to cover and help me pay those bills. So I pay the bills up front and he reimburses me $600 a month to cover those expenses. I had some returns. Returns are also incoming income. And I also, you can see on this page, I also had a return from Comcast from returning some of my equipment because we no longer have Comcast. So incoming income is your paycheck. It's bonuses. It's using gift cards. It's using, if you're using any type of savings, anything coming into your checking account is incoming income. Now you can see my starting balance here on my checking account expense tracker. This was what was in my checking account on March 1st. So that's how you get your monthly income. Now, remember how I said I work with a zero-based budget, meaning my income minus expenses should equal zero. Well, my income was 5,680. My expenses were 5,685. I was off by $5. So here's the thing, when you're closing out your budget and if your numbers don't match by a small amount, don't get frustrated and give up. Give yourself grace, tell yourself you'll do better next time and leave it in the past. The frustration is not worth it for $5 to try to go back in your expense trackers and figure out why you're off by $5. Just let it be and move on. So the next one that I want to talk about very quickly is my monthly debt and savings breakdown. So most of you guys know I'm debt free. So it's really important not to know just how much debt or how much savings you are paying off or contributing. You want to know the specifics because this is going to be the worksheet that tells you if your spending is aligning with your financial goals. So like I said, I saved 29% of my income. This is the amount I saved, $1,631. But I didn't just save $1,631. I saved for very specific goals. These are the things that are important to me. And you need to make sure that your spending or your savings contribution is aligning with what is important to you. So I saved for sinking funds, my 2020 savings challenge. I'm also doing the $5 challenge. Now the $5 challenge, I'm just challenging myself to save every $5 that I come across between the beginning and end of 2020. Vacation, car maintenance, Disneyland, financial freedom. So I am saving into a small investment account. It's an individual investment account where it's a financial freedom account, meaning I am retiring early. That's my goal. And because I'm retiring early, I can't touch my retirement funds before retirement age, which is 59 and a half. And if you do withdraw retirement funds before 59 and a half, you usually get a penalty. So I have to be prepared between the time I retire early and the time I can access my retirement funds without penalty. And that's why I set up a financial freedom account. So $200 every single month, I have it set up automatically. I also am contributing $450 to my son's college account, which is also set up automatically. So between all the different things that I'm saving for, which that's many different things, you can see what is important to me. Obviously, my son's college, saving for early retirement. Now, Disneyland was a big one that we saved for because anything left over in my budget after my bills and variable spending and my sinking funds are taken care of, I save for Disneyland. And then obviously vacation was another big one that was really important to me. And these are definitely aligning with my financial goals. So the next worksheet that I want to talk about very quickly when closing out your budget is my where did my money go monthly spending comparison. How did my spending compare from this month in March to last month in February? Well, I had a slight decrease in my income of about $24, so not anything huge. If you see this if it's in red, I spent more in March than I did last month. And if it's in green, I spent less than. So food, I spent $35 less. Now, if you look at my savings, I always want this to be red. Why? Because I always want to save more than I did last month. And I did. I saved $89 more than I did last month. Why is this important? So every single month or every single budgeting period, whether you're a paycheck budgeter or a monthly budgeter, you should be giving and challenging yourself small financial goals along your journey. So maybe last month you told yourself, I would love to cut down on my food costs, on my food category. I'm challenging myself to really decrease that by $100 next month. This spending comparison is going to tell you, are you staying on track with and completing and being successful with the small financial goals that you are assigning and giving to yourself paycheck or budget to budget? Or in my case, paycheck to paycheck, because I'm a paycheck budgeter. So that comparing spending from this month to last month, you can see trends between the months. So this is why I use the monthly spending comparison. I like to see, one, am I hitting those short-term financial goals I'm giving to myself? And am I, like for instance, I always want to save more. So I'm looking at small trends along from budget to budget or from tracking period to tracking period. So that is my full March budget recap. If you found this video helpful, please like it and don't forget to subscribe.